The first console I ever owned was a Nintendo 64, and by golly, I loved it. I even wrote a poem in high school about how I'd give anything to not lose my precious N64. And I got properly bullied by the hockey team. Regardless, this was the console that got me into gaming, and I offer it great appropriation. Now, I know some of the PlayStation putts are scoffing at the idea that I was so infatuated with the Ninny 64, as they call it. Hey, don't kink shame me, you pessimistic patties. Although the older I got, the more I've noticed that the older gamers, the boomers, aren't too fond of the N64. They always have silly reasons too. Reason number 1.
I could not handle the clunky controller. It is like it was designed for octopuses or something.
Well, sorry, Robbie. You can't figure out how to use your 2 hands to grip 3 handles? You know, maybe that's why you can't please your wife in bed. Reason number 2.
The 3D graphics look choppy and soupy. The Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis never looked poopy. Hashtag facts.
Oh, really, Timmy? I guess we were never supposed to evolve from 2D then, eh? Shame on us for trying to be innovative, yes, silly goose. Reason number 3.
The console is visually appalling. It looks ugly and dull.
Oh, is that right, Cat? Well, you know what else looks ugly and dull? You fucking flower gardens, you cunt. However, one criticism I will give them credit for is that there are some genres the N64 lacks in, horror being a clear example. I don't even think there was a horror game for the N64 that wasn't already on the PlayStation. Another example is sports. Besides the Mario titles, the PlayStation was definitely the console you want to go to if you want to have a more realistic gameplay experience. Yippee! However, one genre I'm not completely sold on yet is fighting. Yeah, the PlayStation had Tekken 1, Tekken 2, Tekken 3, Marvel vs. Capcom, Soul Blade, Dead or Alive, even Fighter Maker. Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure. But there's some decent fighting games on the N64. Granted, BioFreaks and War Gods are on the PlayStation. However, console exclusives like Clay Fighter 63 and the Third, Mace the Dark Age, Fighter's Destiny, and Killer Instinct Gold are adequate. And of course, we can't ignore Smash Bros, but oh jeez, I don't want to step on that landmine. Personally, I like it, but people either have an obsessive fetish over it, or they think it's a cancer shit. I mean, some of the debates these bespectacled hermits have get pretty ugly. And speaking of ugly, I look like shit. What the fuck is this 4th grade ass haircut I got? It sucks because I can't go anywhere still, but this one's able to get a haircut. You literal bitch. Anyway, is there any other N64 fighting games worth talking about? Actually, there is. In fact, it's one from my childhood. It's made by Natsumi, and it's called Flying Dragon. This is one of the first games I ever played. It was Christmas of 1999. I got my N64, and this is one of the 7 games that came with it. So, without a bias, does it still hold up today? Well, does it, Barnaby? Released July 31st, 1998 in North America, Flying Dragon is actually a part of a series called Hiru no Ken. The first of the series was released in the arcade in 1985 called The Shanghai Kid. Not to be confused by The Popcorn Kid.
Stop calling me the Popcorn Kid! Jesus fucking Christ!
3 years later, there was Flying Dragon The Secret Scroll, which was released for the NES. In Japan, however, it was called Fist of the Flying Dragon, The Book of Mystery. Between July of 1988 and July of 1990, there were 2 Hiru no Ken games released only in Japan. The first being Flying Dragon 2, Dragon's Wings, and the second being Fist of the Flying Dragon, 5 Dragon Warriors. Here in the States, there was a game on the NES called Flying Warriors, released February of 1991, which was actually a combination of those 2 previously mentioned games, just translated to English. Despite this, they don't count it as part of the series, even though it was developed by the same company, Culture Brain. It's the same way how the Mario series doesn't count Doki Doki Panic, even though Super Mario Bros. 2 took that game and changed a few sprites. Now let's jump ahead to April of 1992. There was Fighting Simulator 2-in-1 Flying Warriors for the Game Boy. The North American version is a follow-up to, well, Flying Warriors, although the Japanese version was called Fist of the Flying Dragon Gaiden. So now we got two separate series going on here despite being the same game. This continues into June of 1994. There was Ultimate Fighter for the Super Nintendo, which was also another successor to Flying Warriors in North America, while again the Japanese version of this game is called Fist of the Flying Dragon S Golden Fighter. And then we finally get into 1998 when Flying Dragon got released in the States. So to be clear, North America only got 3 true Flying Dragon games up to this point, while in Japan there was 13. So it was ballsy of Natsumi and Culture Brain to release a game like this knowing that the vast majority of Americans had no idea about the Hiro no Ken series. That's all for this episode of Gaming Historia. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Join my Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to support my Patreon for sneak peeks on... Hey! What? Oh yeah, I got a game review to do. So what makes Flying Dragon unique is that it's fundamentally 2 games in 1. There's the Standard Mode and Virtual Mode. Standard Mode tends to aim at the more arcade style, while Virtual Mode is focused on a more realistic fighting approach, but they aren't too much different. Each version has a circuit, multiplayer, tournament, team battle, shop, and 8 characters. In terms of single player action, the only mode really worth talking about is the circuit. So let's start off with Standard Mode. It's your boilerplate fighting game. Fight random characters one by one until you reach the final. There's only a few unlockable characters, and I didn't get that far into the game to unlock them, but in case you're interested, try it out. Anyway, once you beat someone, you receive experience points or level ups for items you equip. Oh yeah, I should mention that before you start a fight, you equip items like a red headband and other slops. Though you'll be let down to see that your character won't actually be wearing that item. It's just for shits and giggles. I was let down because I really wanted to see this loincloth with eyes. I mean, that's just so dick tickling. Imagine being this thing, having warm damp ball sweat running down your neck during a fight, and you can't say anything since you don't have a mouth. That's just a sad, feeble existence. That poor little fuck, man. That poor little fuck. Also, the dialogue between the characters is pretty hollow.
You better fight with all your power. Let's go.
Okay, let's fight now.
I can't forgive you.
This is perfect for my warm-up.
Whatever, let's get to the meat and potatoes here. The gameplay.
Ouch.
One complaint I hear about is the speed. It's sluggish, stagnant, static, somnolent, sleepy, slothful, sedated. Or just slow. I mean, it's not fucking Whistle Stop Willie, but the speed isn't a detriment at all for me. It's definitely a lot more competent than Virtua Fighter, that's for sure. You have your standard punching, kicking, grapple attacks, and Secret Buster. I didn't understand this part. Once you get the meter filled in the bottom, you press the C left button and it works. But for certain characters, it doesn't. It's another combination of sorts, or something. I looked in the manual and found nothing that really helped me. So I'm just going to assume that different characters have different special attacks, despite what this shit says, and gotta say I'm not a fan of that. Let's take a wrestling game for example, WrestleMania 2000 for the N64. Imagine if you want to perform a finisher or a super move of sorts, but you gotta learn what the special button code is for each character. That'd be way more inconvenient than what it needs to be. Thankfully for a game like this though, it's the same button, no matter which character you are. Worth note, the items could play a part of the powers not working, but maybe the Flying Dragon disciples can lecture me. Hey, I'm all ears, folks. Speaking of the items, there's quite a few of them in the game. Once you complete a certain circuit, you acquire them. Oh, excuse me, you get the treasure. No, I got the treasure. I won it. I have it in my inventory. I don't need to get it. I got it. Sprig American Greenhorn. Now, what's with these items anyway? Nameless feather? Who the fuck names a feather? Strange ball. Regardless, I enjoy this mode quite a bit. I like all the characters, even though they aren't super original, except for Sumo Robot. They all have nice colorful costumes and unique moves of their own. Dare I say, it's invigorating. Now let's get into the virtual mode. I was a little puzzled because there's a 2D and 3D option. However, they look exactly the same. I heard it's got something to do with like the sidestep mechanic, but I really don't give a shit. Speaking of not giving a shit, look at the control picture. It's like they had 2 hours till the deadline and fucking Cubicle Caleb accidentally deleted their art picture, so he had to quickly take a picture of a controller. Those Muppets. So how's the gameplay for virtual mode? Well, you would expect it to be a bit more fluent, as this is the adult super serious version. I mean, just look at the intro. The standard version's got the slow text for the kids to read, while the adults in the room get the quick flash and it's gone. Kate, country, Sweden, style kickboxing. This elite international police officer is horseshit! But the gameplay here is, it's toilsome. Holy Moses. How do you go from easy cheesy to this paradoxical poopiness? This is the first fucking stage and I'm getting my nuts kicked into my throat! Jesus Christ! Jesus Christ! I tried using other characters, but it's no use. Goodness gracious! Block top, block bottom, block top, hesitate, high kick, I lose! I can't get over that this is the first stage. There's no difficulty setting at all, like... Play as Min Min. I guess that can work. Let's try it out. Wait a minute. Well, how about that? Good dog. However, I only got to World 3 before I gave up. Look, I'm only recommending this mode if you're seriously really good at fighting games, okay? You gotta be hardcore to the hemorrhoids. And if you aren't, well, there's always standard mode.
I will teach you how wonderful pro wrestling is.
No thanks. I got New Legacy for that. Okay, there we go. So that's Flying Dragon for the N64, which means it is now time for the final verdict. Did you just fart? It's easy to see how a game like Flying Dragon, ironically enough, flew under the radar. While it's not bad, it is missing that key ingredient to make it sui generis. However, I still consider Flying Dragon to be a competent title. The graphics aren't spectacular, but the colors are vibrant, the music is pleasing, and it's got about as much replay value as the other classic 3D fighting titles. Out of a 10, it's a 7, nothing more or less. Even without my nostalgic leaning, I find this to be just an alright underground fighting title for a system that isn't really known for fighting games. So good job! Clean yourself, be safe, and set sail, me old trouts.
Whistle-Stop Willie knows a lot of things.